His cup medal. Could he score the winning goal now?
Good evening. If you saw what happened at Wembley today, you know it's worth watching again. If you haven't seen it already, well, I can't promise you a classic, but this year's Cup final was certainly a thriller. Manchester United against Crystal Palace. Let's take you back to around 10-3 this afternoon with John Motson describing the scene.
And the newcomers, Crystal Palace, have selected the side that played Liverpool in the semi-final. Now, despite the morning speculation, I have a feeling that it was always doubtful that Ian Wright would start the game. He is a substitute, and Steve Coppell's main decision really this morning was who should be the second sub, and there were a few tears at the hotel this morning from one or two of those who didn't make it. The unlucky players, Eddie McGoldrick, Rudy Hedman, Jeff Hopkins, but that's the team that beat Liverpool 4-3, and certainly it's the formation which Palace know exactly can do a job for them, with possibly Andy Gray at number 4, the man to watch on the set plays, and Mark Bright, the main striker, at number 9. As for Manchester United, well, Alex Ferguson had one or two thoughts, but the semi-final replay team against Oldham won his nod of approval, with Danny Wallace selected ahead of Mark Robbins, who was one of the substitutes. And Alex Ferguson also slept on the selection of his second sub. Clayton Blackmore just edged out Mal Donaghy. But Michael Phelan at number 5 will play right back, and Hughes will be very much alone up front in theory, but in practice Webb, number 8, and the other midfield players will be expected to give him support. Brian Robson on the right is bidding to become the first captain to receive the FA Cup 3 times at Wembley, and Jeff Thomas on the left started life as a part-time player with Rochdale when he was working as an electrician. He supported Manchester City, and he used to catch the team coach in his overalls in those days. What a change for him here today as captain of an FA Cup final team. The referee is Alan Gunn from South Chailey in Sussex. Crystal Palace won the vote, or the toss I should say, for choice of colours, and they're wearing their familiar red and blue vertical stripes. A very nice strip it is too. Manchester United in all white, which their long-serving supporters will remind me they used in the finals of 1957, and although I don't think any of us go back that far, 1909 when they first won the Cup. So Palace start the game. This surface is in quite marvellous condition. Brian Robson himself said to me he can't recall the Wembley pitch looking and feeling better. If you can't play on this, was his pre-match comment, well, perhaps you shouldn't be here. Tries to play the ball through. John Salako played left back in the semi-final against Liverpool, wearing number 10, and he's there again. His job, I think, will be to shadow Brian McClare on the United right as we try to form a view on the various tactical implications. Here's Michael Phelan, number 5 for United. Thorne away. That's Ince in midfield, although he's wearing number 2. That's where you'll find him. Pallister for Manchester United. McClare has now pulled away to the left, and look where Salako's gone. He's gone with him. That's a man-to-man arrangement by Crystal Palace. They prepare so carefully, Steve Coppell there with Alan Smith and Ian Branput on the bench, their tactical approach to these big games. It certainly paid off at Villa Park. I wonder if it will at Wembley. Now here is a position for Andy Gray early in the game. Gary O'Reilly has gone forward, and Palace have prepared so carefully for these. Bright has got his arm up in the middle. O'Reilly's there as well. That's all part of the ploy, this hesitation. They're appealing for offside. It's not been given. It's Bright. And that is exactly, Trevor, what Palace have been working on, getting Bright free on the right-hand side of the penalty area from a kind of delayed free kick like that.
Andy Gray did very well to hold it up, because the interesting thing was Manchester United defence. They've had a look at how to combat it, and they decided to hold the 18-yard box. Nobody went into the 18-yard box, make sure that any header was going to be a long way from goal, tried to play the offside, and that's why Andy Gray was holding it up before he eventually did give it. And in fact, they did sort of get through the offside trap.
Bright again moving right out to the touchline, taking defenders with him. Gray. And still. Well, he was flattened the second time. Danny Wallace. Now this could be dangerous once Gray gets to his feet, provided he's fit enough to take the free kick. Dave West, the Palace physio, will come on. Of course, they sit so close to each other at Wembley, the two managers. Free kick to Crystal Palace. Andy Gray's back on his feet to take it. Thorne, O'Reilly's in there, and was it over the line? And it's a goal. Gary O'Reilly, after 19 minutes, it was in the net before Steve Bruce could get his foot to it. And Crystal Palace, the underdogs, have taken the lead in precisely the way many people expected. The free kick, I think it was bent in by Barber there. Whether that came off Pallister's head as well, I'm not quite sure. O'Reilly's taken the congratulations. And was that Pallister or O'Reilly? Anyway, Bruce couldn't keep it out, and Palace are in front.
Well, they took the lead just as probably everyone anticipated Palace would if they did score from a set piece. And on that occasion, of course, it was right near the touchline. Manchester United couldn't push out to the 18-yard box. They were hemmed in near the penalty spot. Jim Leighton, to be fair, did come for the cross, didn't get there, and it looped agonisingly into the empty net, and 1-0.
Well, the Minister of Sport must be fairly pleased with the response he got from the UEFA president before the kick-off today. Colin Moynihan can now enjoy the game after a busy week. Now Andy Gray with the long throw. He's looking for Bright. Robson heads out. Richard Shaw's in there. Are they offside? Yes. Trevor, these set pieces really do seem to upset teams, don't they? I mean, it was the undoing of Liverpool, and now Palace are putting Manchester United under a great deal of stress.
Well, Manchester United obviously decided the offside trap is the way to try and combat it, but on occasions that is going to break down, and really you have got to compete with the people that you're marking. At the moment, it is Crystal Palace men who are getting the flick-ons, and Manchester United are hoping they're going to get the offside, because really they're not getting to the first header.
This is Phelan, though, and they're coming in from the far post. McClare! And well blocked Salako. It's a goal kick because McClare, I think, got an extra touch, although he wouldn't agree with that. John Salako did some valiant defending there for Crystal Palace. It was a delightful ball from Michael Phelan. It was aimed at McClare, but Salako was closing it down. Phelan very comfortable at right back, even though he was essentially brought to play in midfield. This is Gray. That's Bright. And Gray right in again. Bright nearly made that. The bombardment of crosses is still worrying Manchester United. Palace don't waste time in getting the ball in there. Here's Phelan. Foul, Barber. Wallace, good ball in. Hughes is there. McClare. And I think that hit a Palace player last. That's a corner. I think John Salako was the player that actually got that ball out. It was Danny Wallace's whip cross, and I'm pretty sure that comes off Salako. Webb will take the corner. Pallister on the near post. McClare on the goal line. Bruce and Robson waiting to come in. A back header. Oh, goodness me. I think that was probably Mark Bright who actually got his head to that. So look at it again. Yes, number 9 for Palace.
He'd probably say Nigel Martin called him for it, and so just knocked it back to him. But a great catch, in fact, by Nigel Martin, who hasn't had a lot to do, for 35 minutes, but held on to that very well.
Here's Wallace up against Pemberton. That's awkward. Oh, good header, O'Reilly. Not very far out, though. Ince. Brian Robson's right on the 18-yard line as an auxiliary attacker. This is Phelan. Pallister. They want it played in. Hughes is waiting too. But Palace's defensive play at the moment is sound. It's compact. And if Gray hadn't been impeded, they would have been away there. But this is Martin. Referee saw nothing wrong. Ince. That's a good-looking ball for McClare. Wallace comes near post. Wallace. McClare. Robson. Goal! Brian Robson equalises for Manchester United after 35 minutes, and Captain Marvel is there again. Now, good play here. Danny Wallace just worked the ball out wide. The cross was delivered long to the far post, and Brian rolls a deflection off a defender as well there. It's one each, and as Robson gets the header in, that's John Pemberton, I think, was it? Or maybe the man in front of him that just diverted it to make it 1-1. Great emotion in the crowd. But they're back in business, Manchester United. I must say as well, what a good cross by Brian McClare that produced that goal for Manchester United. Following smart work by Danny Wallace, McClare really delivered that ball well. This is Bruce. In by Wallace. Webb. McClare. Hughes. No, not quite. Can Phelan retrieve it? He can. McClare. And it could so easily have been 2-1 to United. And Alex Ferguson thought it was for a moment. He was on his feet as Brian McClare, who made the first goal, nearly scored the second. It's Webb working well there on the far side. It nearly ran for Hughes. Now look what happens. Michael Phelan, a great cutback, and McClare's header the wrong side of the post.
A superb cross by Michael Phelan, and really Brian McClare will go in at half-time wondering how on earth he missed it. One of those, he turned to head it up, pretty sure he thought it was going to go into the net, but he didn't get it round far enough, and really it was unchallenged, and he'll know a recognised striker such as himself, I think, should have tucked that away.
This is Webb for Manchester United. And it's Phelan. And there is the half-time whistle, and the two teams in the 1990 FA Cup final go off level. I can see Steve Coppell sprinting down the touchline to get there first, which is his normal routine. But he saw his team, the outsiders, go into the lead here. And then as Manchester United began to get their game together, led by Brian Robson, they cancelled out that goal in which O'Reilly figured so prominently. And Robson was the man who came in at the far post with the header to put things right for the favourites. So at half-time at Wembley, it's Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 1. Bright sunshine now. It's Webb for Manchester United, still not perhaps dominating the game in that midfield. This is Andy Gray. And Ince gets in the way, but Gray won't be denied. Now here's Pemberton. This is exactly what he did in the semi-final. And Brian Robson rather more aware than the Liverpool defenders were. John Pemberton must sort of take some special, something special in his cup of tea at half-time. I won't suggest anything stronger than that, but he does seem to come out full of running. This is Shaw. Oh. And it's Brian Robson who he flattened. This is Bruce. Wallace. Now Pallister has stayed forward in the centre. That's Pardew doing the covering. Good touch back to Webb by McClare. Not a bad ball either. Oh, they're in trouble here. Oh, and Bruce was coming in on that cross by Hughes, but couldn't quite reach it. Gray. I think it was Andy Thorne who may have intercepted. This is Gray now for Palace on the break to Bright. Now Barber in a good position. And it goes wide again to Bright. Jeff Thomas in there. This is Webb. It's developing now into a good open game. Martin. Wallace. Martin again. Pemberton. That was a foul. Just a reminder of the substitutes. We did refer to them at the start. Manchester United have Mark Robbins and Clayton Blackmore on the bench. And Crystal Palace selected Ian Wright and David Madden. They may have a part to play later, we shall see. Meantime, a free kick to Manchester United. Pallister's forward again, between Hughes and McClare on the far side. This is Robson. Wallace. Martin. Webb. Wallace. And Pallister trying to get to grips there with Mark Bright, who'd come back to mark him. This is Barber. Martin. Robson. Oh, goodness me, they're manhandling Robson a bit. That was Gray. Referee says you've got the ball to Lee Martin. Play on. Good advantage by Alan Gunn. Here's Pallister. And United with 7 players forward in this attack. One of them is Ince here. And now Pallister. And Webb. Palace making them work so hard to get forward. Phelan. Wallace. Ince. Solako having another good game at left back, which was something of an unfamiliar position to him at the beginning of the season. And Paul Ince was the player who stopped there. Webb. Palace dwelling. Wallace. A ricochet. Hughes! 2-1 to Manchester United. And a devastating finish by Mark Hughes. And I have to say the Palace defence were pussyfooting around a bit there, really. They had their chance to clear. Thorne didn't do so. And when it came to Hughes' left foot, that was a deadly goal scorer's instinct. After 62 minutes, Mark Hughes scores his 14th goal of the season, his first in the FA Cup this season, and it puts Manchester United into a 2-1 lead. And to take nothing away from Hughes. That was first class. But Crystal Palace's manager told them yesterday, whatever you do, make sure you concentrate for the whole 90 minutes. And just for a few seconds there, they lost it, and they paid the price. It had been a good spell by United, and it's been rewarded. Nigel Martyn had no chance at all. Ince. Now, can they take over here now, the favourites? Or can Palace do what they did to Liverpool and come from behind again?
Not dissimilar to the first half, was it? A scrappy sort of 17-18 minutes, and then suddenly we get a goal. Probably Crystal Palace will feel they're a little bit unlucky because the clearance by Thorne was blocked to Neil Webb. It could have gone anywhere, but it opened up suddenly. Crystal Palace defence. Mark Hughes kept his head very well, hit a good left foot shot, and suddenly 2-1, and now I suppose Steve Coppell's mind must be drifting slightly towards Ian Wright. Here we have the ricochet, and suddenly Gary O'Reilly coming out of defence, caught flat-footed, and there he is, Mark Hughes, hits it in, and there's a happy man there, I think.
They say that Mark Hughes doesn't score the simple goals, only the spectacular ones. Well, that was, if you like, a simple opportunity, but it was taken in some style. Webb. There goes Phelan, good running from right back. Hughes in the middle again. Wallace. Webb. Three in the centre. Hughes! Oh, how did he get that out? Andy Thorne, I think. Miraculously from McClare. What a clearance. That could have killed the game completely. And they know it down there. McClare was ready to pounce. As you'll see from this, it's Neil Webb who gets a great ball in. Hughes heads it wide of the keeper, and Thorne away from McClare.
Marvellous cross by Neil Webb there to the far post. And it's actually the crosses beyond the far post, the goal, and then Mark Hughes had the one chested down early in the second half. And that one there that's causing Palace problems. It's beyond the far post.
Well, Andy Thorne, a former Wimbledon campaigner here, certainly saved his side on that occasion. He's probably kept them in the final. And the Manchester United fans turn up the volume. They've taken over here at the moment. Bruce. Well, Mark Hughes looks to be the man for the big occasion. I remember him making the goal for Norman Whiteside when United last won the Cup. But it's early to talk about that. Here's Bright. Pallister. And look where Jim Leighton was. When Pallister sliced that ball over his own crossbar, the goalkeeper had come and must have been 8 yards out. It's a ball played in here by Mark Bright. There's Leighton coming to claim it, but never got a chance, because Pallister did it first. Now then, corner. Always the danger signal, with Palace bending them in. On that occasion, bending them over.
There's a wasted corner on that occasion, but it must have been some relief there, because there was a mix-up. Gary Pallister trying to make the clearance, and you have to ask, did Jim Leighton shout? Because really he was waiting to collect the cross, and I'm sure if the defender gets to shout, he's got to leave it, but if you don't hear anything, you try and hook it clear.
So 2-1 to Manchester United. Neil Webb heads the ball on to Mark Hughes. Foul, Gary O'Reilly. And Crystal Palace are going to make a change. Phil Barber is going off, number 7. And Ian Wright, the whiz kid from Woolwich, who made a huge impression last season when Palace won promotion, but who's twice had a hairline fracture of a shin bone and has only played in 4 of the last 22 matches. He's missed the last 10, in fact. This is his moment now to prove that he's fit and able to make a contribution. Wallace. Webb back to Wallace, and there goes Robson, onside. Hughes coming in from the far post, but it's Brian Robson, and a good challenge by Alan Pardew, forcing Robson to shoot wide at the last. I would think that Bobby Robson up in the stand, Trevor, would be very pleased to see Brian Robson so active and so involved.
Well, those sort of runs are the ones he's famous for, and that's that sort of run which got him his semi-final goal, wasn't it, against Oldham. On that occasion, Alan Pardew did very well, worked back. He couldn't quite get in a tackle because it was in a dangerous situation, could have conceded a penalty, but just shouldered him off balance enough so as he couldn't hit a good shot.
Now here's Wright, his first chance to show what he can do, and he's through. It's Wright. Oh, what an impact by the substitute. It's 2-2. And it's Ian Wright who has sent the Palace supporters into ecstasy. The ball played through to him in not the best position, I have to say, but look what he made of this. He turned the defender beautifully and slid it wide of Jim Leighton, and that was in the 73rd minute, and it was just 3 minutes after Ian Wright had come on. And what a lovely individual goal. There was a touch of the Ricky Villas about that one, Trevor.
Well, he looks pretty pleased there, I'm not surprised. I do believe it was his first touch, wasn't it? I can't actually, he's been running around as you do as a substitute, trying to get a touch. Here he is, and really Gary Pallister caught very flat-footed. You shouldn't let a striker turn in on goal like that. You should funnel him to the touchline. He kept his head well, kept it low, and really that's it. That is him at his best. Turns inside, he's so quick, always on his toes, sees that corner. What a cut this has been, isn't it? Always topsy-turvy matches, and there's Steve Coppell, the master-stroke substitution, shall we say.
But that has to go down as one of the classic individual cup final goals. It came out of nothing from a player whose skill factor is well recognised, but who many people felt wasn't really fit enough to take part today. Well, he's proved them all wrong. But Steve Coppell has been proved right, because to leave him out of the starting lineup and then bring him on when something fresh was needed has proved at this stage to be something of a masterstroke. Well, Steve Coppell has used his trump card from the bench, Ian Wright. I just wonder if this might be the moment for Alex Ferguson to consider the introduction of young Mark Robins, Trevor.
Alex Ferguson must be thinking about Mark Robins, because psychologically it perhaps would lift the crowd and the team, because at the moment they're just a little bit on their heels. McClare, Webb, Wallace making a run across the box. He and Hughes hit each other and both finished up on the ground. It's a sign of the confusion that seems to have spread through United the last few minutes. In fact, Wallace has got hurt and Hughes is down, and this could be the signal maybe for Robins to get ready. I see no movement yet on the bench. There's the young man. McClare, Webb, Robson! Good save by Martin. Bright. And I just wonder with that Brian Robson header, Trevor, whether Nigel Martin had a bit of help from the post with that save, you know, looking back. Certainly was typical Brian Robson, getting in late again. He might have got the faintest of touches, but I'm sure it came back off the post in the end.
Lee Martin is walking across towards the touchline. And Clayton Blackmore is the player coming on, so they're saving Robins, I presume, for extra time. Now Blackmore can play left back, so that's a straight switch. There's a minute left here of the 90. It's Ince for Manchester United. He's gone past Pardew. He's taking them all on. Robson's up there too. Not a good clearance. This is Webb. Good ball out to Wallace. Robson waiting in the middle. So is Hughes. Gray. Oh, good ball by Pallister to Webb. Now there's running off the ball, but Hughes has got 2 to beat, and Pemberton was there. So with 30 seconds left, it looks like 7 finals in 10 will have gone to extra time. Unless Wright can do something dramatic, or maybe Ince can. He wants help. Wallace. Robson. Phelan. Manchester United's fans urging them to one last effort here. McClare. We're into stoppage time. Thomas, hounded